Sri Aurobindo always lifts us up. Even in the darkest cantos where he has to go through all these worlds of falsehood and darkness and evil, there are 2 or 3 lines which will suddenly lift us up to the highest. So
destruction he felt,
yes,
creation's hasty pace,
yes,
death as a cellar in the house of life.
yes,
And hell, and there is one more line, loss as a prize for the celestial gain, and hell as a shortcut to heaven's gates. That's what we read, digging a tunnel through emergency.
yeah.
We are born from the Spirit's Son of hidden powers, digging a tunnel through emergency. So all darkness is a passage to bring out the best in us.
He has this beautiful passage also about darkness, which I love to quote. Our sense, by its incapacity, has invented darkness. In truth, there is only light. Only it is a light either above or below our poor human vision's limited range. Do not think that light comes from the suns. It is only a reflection of that which is forever. And then he goes on to say, God is everywhere. And where God is, there is light. Oh, so beautiful.
So we can start with a question or something.
So this thing that both Mother and Sri Aurobindo have said about some change in the individual, which individual makes out of effort, helps all of humanity. Is this something that is part of the new knowledge that Mother and Sri Aurobindo have brought, or was this also there before them?
Very interesting question.
Good question.
Very interesting question. It is there in the Vedas. Yes, in the Vedas the secret is there, and Sri Aurobindo speaks about it. So the Vedic rishis were a representative type, they already knew this. And that is how they tried to bring about the collective change. But it has not been developed with all the force and the fullness as Sri Aurobindo and the Mother have developed it. This representative nature of each one of us, because ultimately nature is one and universal. We divide it, my nature, your nature. Now there again, there are certain patterns on which natures are built. The secret of it is with Mother Nature herself. So when you touch one point of the pattern, you will touch similar corresponding point everywhere else in the universe. But this process actually starts consciously only when one begins to enter into the cosmic consciousness. Before that, also it is done, but unconsciously.
The Vedic rishis had the knowledge of the supermind. But Mother and Sri Aurobindo made the decision not to have it for themselves, but for the collective, for the world. And that's why they had to go through this. They could have had it, both of them, instantaneously. That is the divine holocaust, divine sacrifice.
Proceed with some question.
Om has become a universal sadhana. We have my son's in San Francisco, a neighbor daughter, 3-year-old, is chanting Om. American girl. Because the yoga class is learning this Sanskrit chanting. It starts with Om.
There is a whole Upanishad dedicated to it.
Yes.
Dedicated to Om.
Which Upanishad?
Mundak or Mandukya? This
Mandukya, and also
dedicated to Om.
yeah. Sri Aurobindo's translation of this, I'm writing a book on Om now, and Sri Aurobindo's translations are just wonderful. It's not only Mandukya, it's...
yeah, but there it is developed.
But there it's developed the most, yes. Thanks.
So this is the Mandukya Upanishad. So it starts with the whole peace chant, which a lot of people do it in Indian customs. That famous one, Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shanyam Deva Bhadram Pashyemaksh Vijyatra. So this whole thing, Swastina Indro Vradhrashavaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Staksharyo Arishtanemihi Swastino Brahaspatir Dhadatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. The Om peace invocation is done. And its translation is very beautiful. Om, may we hear what is auspicious with our ears. Such a practical steps to yoga. O ye gods, may we see what is auspicious with our eyes. Which means see the beautiful, hear the beautiful, the true, the good. Don't pay attention to other things. Don't let it. In fact, in one of the stories it says that evil came and pierced his ears and he could no more hear the truth. It came and pierced his eyes and he could no more see the truth. Ordained veil unto us Indra of high-heaped glories. Ordained veil unto us Bhushan, the all-knowing sun. Ordained veil unto us Arishtanemi, Brahaspati. Ordained veil unto us Om, peace, peace, peace. Then starts the exposition of Om.
Om.
Om is this imperishable word. Om is the universe. And this is the exposition of Om. The past, the present and the future. All that was, all that is, all that will be is Om. Likewise, all else that may exist beyond the bounds of time, that too is Om. So now this is the first sutra. How in the Upanishadic age disciples were taught. They were given this sutra to meditate and reflect upon. So they will meditate and they will then be left free. So it would need days and weeks. So they would meditate upon it, go deeper and deeper, and then they would come back each one to this master. Master, I have understood it. Master, I have realized it. So the disciple in his own way, the guru in his own way will test him. How he has understood how much. If not, they will be sent back to reflect. So this was one process used because, as I put it, the mother was not there to give it to us. This is my interpretation, but that was a Vedantic way. Then next would be, all this universe is the eternal Brahman. Now you see, this method Sri Aurobindo has also used, but where? In Thoughts and Aphorism. And mother explains this. She says, Sri Aurobindo used the thoughts and aphorism. He wrote them when he was transiting from the intuitive mind into the supermind. The mother's words. So what he did was, through the thoughts and aphorisms, he shocks the human mind. And suddenly it's like, what is this? Like, when we read, all this is Om, what does it mean? Instantly. So the human mind undergoes a shock. And under that shock, after that initial contraction, what is it? It expands, 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 goes deeper and deeper as the query develops inside. So thoughts and aphorisms are like that. This is also aphoristic style. They are revelations, but revelations which are given in a way which are very difficult for human mind to comprehend. For instance, human mind lives in the divisions of time. Sri Aurobindo is saying Om is the Mandukya Upanishad is saying Om is the past, the present and the future. All that is and all that is yet to be is Om. Now the moment the human mind starts contemplating it, it begins to enter into a breath, and slowly, if it continues the process, it will go further into this journey. These are meditations actually. Then the next is, all this universe is the eternal Brahman. This self is the eternal, and the self is fourfold. So first, everything is Brahman. So it is again too vast a truth, and human mind cannot comprehend it. It is likely to misunderstand it. So we are told that the self is fourfold, Chatushpad Brahman. So what are those four states? First, he whose place is the wakefulness, who is wise of the outward, who has 7 limbs, to whom there are 19 doors, who feeleth and enjoyeth gross objects, Vaishwanar, the universal male, he is the first. So we see that our outer self, these 7 limbs and the 19 doors through which the whole consciousness is going out and touching, holding objects and getting lost into it. It's enjoying the gross outward. So that is the first part. So if we remain stuck with that, then we don't go further. Then we have discovered only one aspect of the eternal reality. So we have to go on to the next step. Next step is, this is the same thing given in story of Virochana and Indra. He whose place is the dream, who is wise of the inward, who has 7 limbs, to whom are 19 doors, who feeleth and enjoyeth subtle objects, Taijasa, the inhabitant in luminous mind, he is the second. So next we discover that what really enjoys. Not these senses. We say, how tasty it is. But imagine if the mind is not functioning. Not only we may not find it tasty, even the taste can be altered. So sweet things may taste bitter, as happens in certain conditions, because it's not the senses but the mind that enjoys. Then subtle things. It's not only the gross taste, but things of a subtle nature. Human mind imagines, such a nice thing, and begins to enjoy it. So there is a state in he calls it the dream world. The Upanishads call it the dream world. It's purely a world which is subtle, which is a world which exists in our subjective space as well as in a subtle objective space. So this is the second one. When one sleepeth and yearneth not with any desire, nor seeth any dream, that is the perfect slumber. He whose place is the perfect slumber, who is become oneness, who is wisdom gathered into itself, who is made of mere delight, who enjoyeth delight unrelated, to whom conscious mind is the door, Pragya, the Lord of wisdom, he is the third. So third is Susupti. So Jagrat, Swapna and Susupti is the deep slumber. Why it is a slumber? Because we are unconscious in that state. We cannot remain awake in that state. It is such a space of luminous delight that the moment consciousness enters there, it sleeps. That's why when we read Life Divine, we sleep. And it's a perfect way to sleep, because it's a luminous sleep. It's much better to read Life Divine without notes and sleep than not read it at all. So Life Divine can literally take us into that state of Susupti, and that's why after that 10-15 minutes of sleep, when we come out, we feel so rejuvenated, because it's a state of delight. Only we do not carry anything outward. So, this is what is called as Samadhi. But this is not enough. This is the Almighty. This is the Omniscient. This is the inner soul. This is the womb of the universe. This is the birth and destruction of creatures. He who is neither inward wise nor outward wise, nor both inward and outward wise, nor wisdom self-gathered, nor possessed of wisdom, nor unpossessed of wisdom. Any qualification will finish it. Sri Aurobindo says that in his poem on Parabrahman. He is, we cannot say, nor he is not. For nothing too is a conception of himself unguessed. Both time and timelessness sink in that sea. Time becomes a wave, space a wandering drop. So that's the other, in other place he says in Savitri, being and non-being rushing into each other's arms. So unseizable, incommunicable, featureless, unthinkable and unnameable. That's what Mother made it so simple in the morning. Without speaking of all this, she says, all that human mind has never conceived of. So she is not using such technical words, but she is revealing to us in a language we can comprehend. Whose essentiality is awareness of the self in its single existence, in whom all phenomena dissolve, who is calm, who is good, who is the one than whom there is no other. Him they deem the fourth. He is the self. He is the object of knowledge. Now you see, again we are going to that whole Vedantic process. He is the object of knowledge. So what it means is that if you think the waking knowledge is all, then you are mistaken. So when you discard it, you enter into subtle realms of knowledge. Visions, voices, gods, demons, angels, all kinds of experiences that come. You may remain there and believe that is the final. No, you discard it. Then you enter into a state of trance, a state of superconscious sleep. You go past that, and then you discover that state which is all extending, which you cannot define, cannot describe. No, it cannot be done just like that. It's a meditation and reflection constantly that leads to this state. Its imitations can be achieved, but the real state is something very deep. Now this, the self, as to the imperishable word, is Om. And as to the letters, his parts are the letters, and the letters are his parts, namely A, O, M. So that's how it becomes. A is the outgoing consciousness. So consciousness is expanding from that point 0 to infinity. So it's opening of the mouth. Then O is circling everything and holding it within. Everything is surrounded by that. Then is the return back. So that's how the whole cycle of waking, dreaming and the sleep. And that word which holds all these three together is Om. The waker, Vaishwanar, then it elaborates, the universal male, he is A, the first letter, because of initiality and pervasiveness. He that knoweth him for such pervadeth and attaineth all his desires, he becomes the source and first. So everywhere this consciousness is spread out. So it is all pervading. The dreamer, Tejasa, the inhabitant, is luminous mind. He is U, the second letter, because of advance and centrality. He that knoweth him for such advanceth the bounds of his knowledge and riseth above difference. Nor of his seed is any born that knoweth not the eternal. So first is to know that he expresses himself and reaches out to everything. Second knowledge is he is in everything, so centrality. The central element of everything is that. And then the sleeper, Pragya, the Lord of wisdom, he is Ma, the third letter, because of measure and finality. That is how the word comes, Maya, Matra, Mata, all these born from the letter M. It limits, brings back, puts things in parts. So measures and finality, both aspects are there. So Maya is, on one side it measures, on the other side it also leads you towards that truth. He that knoweth him for such measureth with himself the universe and becometh the departure into the eternal. Letterless is the fourth, the incommunicable, the end of phenomenon, the good, the one than whom there is no other. Thus is Om. He that knoweth is the self and entereth by his self into the self. He that knoweth, he that knoweth. Ya eva Veda, Ya eva Veda. Such a short Upanishad, all centered around Om. Shubindu, yeah, that's it.
Yep.
Upanishad ends here.
He instructed us about fourth letter. most important.
Now, you see now the interesting part. Look at Sri Aurobindo's.
Difficult to sing, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. The fourth letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that
Savitri has everything.
I made it.
It has the fourth letter also.
Oh.
See, only Sri Aurobindo's master, the master of master poets, can do this magic.
Yes.
That he can speak about the ineffable. So without the letter, he will say what is its, what it does. What is that fourth letter and what it does.
iPad.
No, it's fine.
No, this is the secret knowledge.
Yeah.
He's got it.
So first he speaks about the most important letter. If it's not brought in, then all the rest is inconsequential. Now look at this. We have to read a little from here. As if an unintelligible phrase suggested a million renderings to the mind, it lends a purport to a random world, a conjecture leaning upon doubtful proofs, a message misunderstood, a thought confused, missing its aim is all that it can speak, or a fragment of the universal word. And he goes on, it leaves two giant letters, void of sense, while without sanction turns the middle sign, carrying an enigmatic universe, as if a present without future or past, repeating the same revolutions whirl, turned on its axis in its own inane. Now you see how Om cryptically carries the beginning and the close. So the past, the present, the end, everything going towards its finality. So past, present, future. Now, but what is the next? Okay. This is our deepest need to join once more. What now is parted, opposite and twain, remote in sovereign spheres that never meet, or fronting like the poles of night and day. We must fill the immense lacuna we have made, rewed the closed finite's lonely consonant with the open vowels of infinity. Just think about it. What is the vowel of infinity? It goes beyond grammar.
Yeah. Reread.
A hyphen must connect matter and mind, the narrow isthmus of the ascending soul. We must renew the secret bond in things. Our hearts recall the lost divine idea, reconstitute the perfect word, unite the Alpha and the Omega in one sound. Then shall the spirit and nature be at one.
Incredible.
He doesn't say which letter, but he brings them all together in just some magical, mysterious lines. That's why this word is so important, because it gives the highest secret. The highest secret is not this or that, but this and that and all else that is beyond.
Reconstitute.
Reconstitute.
Reconstitute the perfect word.
Which would constitute as return. I mean, restoring something which exists.
Yeah, which
before.
exists. Obviously, it exists.
Yes.
Then Purusha and Prakriti, how beautiful. Yes, something from that we'll read. This is another, Sri Aurobindo's Vedanta. All here, we read Ishupanishad, Isavasyamidam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Now see how Sri Aurobindo writes it. This reveals the same truth. All here where each thing seems its lonely self, are figures of the sole transcendent one. Only by him they are. His breath is their life. You know, his breath is their life is that third sloka that we read. Matrishva dadati. In him, he holds the waters. So it is his breath that has gone into everything and created life. That is exactly the Ish Upanishad, that third sloka. An unseen presence molds the oblivious clay. Here he brings that Vedantic and Tantric vision together. A playmate in the mighty mother's game, one came upon the dubious whirling globe to hide from a pursuit in force and form. And then he uses a marvelous line. Accomplice of a cosmic huge pretense. So she has created all kinds of objects. He identifies with it and says, oh, I am ignorant, I am useless, I am dark, I am inert. Accomplice, he plays the game in her terms. Binds himself to her, because thus alone can the journey be completed. His semblances, he turns to real shapes. She is trying to create replica semblances. He, by inhabiting it, turns them to real shapes and makes the symbol equal with the truth. That's why people talk about Maya and getting rid. It's not. Sri Aurobindo reminds us, you cannot get rid of Maya because it is his Maya. You can get rid of Moha because Moha is the ignorant attachment, but it is his Maya. He has sanctioned the game. He has sanctioned to make the symbol equal to the truth. See, like, when people love their mother, father, they are symbols. But look how powerful it is. Makes the symbol equal to the truth. People go to that extent of saying, Matri Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava. Mother is like God, father is like God. A typical example. He is the substance, he the self of things. She has forced from him her works of skill and might. She wraps him in the magic of her moods and makes of his myriad truths her countless dreams. He is the maker and the world he made. He is the wisdom, he is the vision and he is the seer. He is himself the actor and the act. He is himself the knower and the known. He is himself the dreamer and the dream. We read about Chatushpad Brahman. That is all this. There are two who are one and play in many worlds. In knowledge and ignorance they have spoken and met. And light and darkness are their eyes interchange. Our pleasure and pain are their wrestle and embrace. They are married secretly in our thought and life. The universe is an endless masquerade, for nothing here is utterly what it seems. It is a dream fact, vision of a truth, which, but for the dream, would not be wholly true. You have collected poems. So if you just open that, I'm feeling tempted to read something from that. But till that, if we can have some questions.
I'd like you to speak a bit about Hiranyagarbha.
We'll read from this. Because Sri Aurobindo is directly in Savitri. Not poem, first Savitri, since I was thinking of reading it.
I see.
But not for Hiranyagarbha's sake, but because of the grand vision that accompanies it.
Yes.
So I'm so happy you just said, will you? This is I just thought, while I was reading, that passage also.
Yes.
And there it comes.
Great.
The golden womb of things. we have vision of the divine in the Gita. But this is something amazing. And this is the beauty, that's why the beauty of Sri Aurobindo's writings, particularly Savitri, he makes it accessible to us. So, for me, this is itself an experience. When you read Sri Aurobindo and read Savitri, communicates. And Sri Aurobindo has said that was the original sense of the word poet. In the Indian thought, he was a maker of forms. So he brought those things which are not accessible to our gross vision close to our senses. That's what the poet does. Poet goes into his own world. He experiences something which is subtle, and he puts it through a body of words and a rhythmic sense before our eyes. So that which is beyond our conception comes close to us. So that way he gives us the touch of the eternal. This is the way, and that's why Savitri, doesn't matter if one understands or not. He brings us close. It's amazing. I just thought about reading this passage and hear you of all the things Hiranyagarbha. I mean, In him, the fourfold being bore its crown. Incidentally, I also wanted to read this passage in New Jersey Center. When we talked about the Vedic vision, where the fourfold powers, the four guardians of the supramental doors. So here, Sri Aurobindo now takes us to that. In him, the fourfold being bore its crown, that wears the mystery of a nameless name. The fourfold being is right, all levels, but here he wears a crown. The universe writing its tremendous sense in the inexhaustible meaning of a word. We come back to Om. So we read about the Chatushpad Brahman and how there in him he wears the crown. So all this is the divine, the outer, the subtle, the subtlest, and what is beyond, all is the divine. But where is the crown? There is the crown. And this is the feet. That's why it's called in one of the ancient scriptures, Padabhyam Prithvi. The earth is his footing. And where is the crown? The supramental. So that's why it is. And again the word comes. In him, the architect of the visible world, at once the art and artist of his works, spirit and seer and thinker of things seen, Virat, who lights his campfires in the suns and the star entangled ether in his hold. So you see, every time we look at the night sky, Mother gave this as one of the meditations. She was asked how to make the consciousness vast. So this is one of the methods she gave. Why? Because this is an outermost expression of the hidden divinity. That's why even now when you see those images of galaxy and all that, it has a tremendous power upon the being. So we can use this image also either inwardly or actually looking at the stars if there are any left. So when we look at the stars, and even morning we read that image, drifting in space billions of years away, so we can experience that aspect. And that is called Virat. And look how Sri Aurobindo describes, who lights his campfires in the suns, and the star entangled ether is his hold, expressed himself with matter for his speech. That's where the Veda is written. Speech. What a speech.
With matter for his speech.
It's like unintelligible, and yet it holds the secret within it. That's why unlocking the mystery of matter. The Vedas are there. So, objects are his letters. This is the grammar of the infinite. You can't limit him to 26 or 52. Objects are his letters. Savitri.
No, I understand. I mean, which canto?
Last, 11, book 11.
Book 11.
Forces are his words. Now the context is that death has been perished. But when he gets transformed, then behind the mask, oh, this was the one who had worn this mask. That is how. So who is this one? That is being described. Events are the crowded history of his life, and sea and land are the pages for his tale. Matter is his means and his spiritual sign. This part is straight summary of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It describes it as a huge horse, Ashwamedh Yagya, and the universe is a cosmic horse, and this is his mouth, this is his hind, this is his tail, these rivers and lakes are his leavings. It describes, it's a gory image actually. If you really don't get it, it's a very gory image. So Sri Aurobindo is giving us a distilled image, more suited to us. Otherwise you'll say, what is this? If you read Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, sometimes it is the horse and how it manifests time. So it's here he says the same, it's the image of the cosmos, where the whole cosmos is nothing but an expression of the divine. He hangs the thought upon a lashes lift. In the current of the blood makes flow the soul.
That's an incredible line.
Incredible line. In the current of the blood makes flow the soul. Now you see it has very many ramifications. Where is the seat of the soul? Here. And where is the central point from which there are pulsations for blood? Here. This is actually literally true. So you will see that when something is said which you feel deviates from truth, deviates from good, deviates from beautiful, you feel an emotion rising here in your heart. Actually its origin is deep inside in the psychic. But the heart as the organ being closest and the emotional being closest, it enters into that and flows into the blood. So the blood begins to, it has many ramifications even in experience. Sometimes when the force descends or the heart center opens, it can create pulsations. It can create all kinds of things. And that's why many people have this very interesting thing. By learning to handle the heart, you can learn to manage a lot of diseases. You know why? You see, we are a little bit deviating, but it's very interesting how Sri Aurobindo's each line. See, we have this concept of time. So outwardly, how do you measure time? By events. So the most micro event is the event taking place at the atomic level. So the atomic clocks are the one which are most accurate. Right? Then you have other way of events like morning, evening. This is also time. What time is it? It's afternoon. Again event, sun's relation to the earth. Now, how does the body record time? How does the body know things? There is a time in the body. There is time when you feel hungry. And that's why we experience jet lag, all these things. How is the biological clock functions? The biological clock functions through the beatings of the heart. Thuk, 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 thuk. Body is registering every beat. So, if the beating is fast, tuck, 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 so the body rhythms are getting altered. And that's why slowing down the heart through deep breathing was one of the ways discovered by the mystic to prolong life. See, it's very fascinating and it's connected to the soul force. So when the soul expresses itself and flows through the blood, and there is another gory side to it, but so true. Of all the meats, which is the most tastiest meat? Animals know it. Human meat. It's a fact. If they taste it, they never want to go back to something else. And the reason? The reason is, one of the reasons which mystics speak about is because it has in it the sweetness of the soul. And that's why it is an attraction for many of these beings, because that has an attraction. It's a gory, but it's a truth of another fact. So they are attracted towards it because it is a way that sweetness of the soul is in it. But obviously, it's not something, it's nice, but the Rakshasas want it because this is the only way they can get something of the soul's touch which they desperately want, because they are outward looking. So in ancient time, when you see the Rakshasas looking for, particularly targeting the sages, because evolved beings have greater sweetness in the very So Sri Aurobindo reveals one line. This is just an example, how deep it can go and how practical it can be.
Read that line again.
In the current of the blood makes flow the soul. The substance of the soul flows into the blood, and that also means, you see, it is through the blood that the disorders go, through the blood that order can come back. So if you want to recreate harmony in the system, invoke, get deep inside, as far as possible, as close as possible to the soul, and just draw it out and let it flow through the heart into all the veins, nerves. One of the ways. The other ways, more direct ways, but because it is accessible, the first healer, the inner healer. And you can literally call, and Mother gives a method. Whenever your heart beats fast, you take deep breaths and say, quiet, quiet, no need to get upset, be quiet, because, and that's why excitement is toxic to the nerves and the body. Excitement means tuck, 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 so you are cutting your life. So a life of perpetual excitement, like nightclubs, cigarettes, caffeine, soda, is a life which is fast gravitating towards death. You see how it has very practical ramifications at every level. So
I wanted to say one thing about a story about Amal and the psychic being.
Yeah, this is very good story. Yes, please.
He writes to Mother, and you may amplify it, and he says, Mother, this throbbing, it's painful. And Mother says, yes, I know about it, it'll go. That awakening of the psychic, one feels that throbbing. Can be
He
painful.
had that, our Kapali Shastri, whole red, his whole, this part had become red.
Yeah.
That kind of concentration.
Yeah.
And Amal Kiran, that other story I was also reminded of, where he took 3 times that lethal dose of this drug, amphetamines. And it was by mistake, not for anything. And then obviously it would kill anybody, and he started, that this is my final moments. At that point, he called the Mother through this door. And obviously that flows, and he was saved, and all that is, of course, we know, of course he was saved. Okay. His is the dumb will of atom and of clod, a will that without sense or motive acts, an intelligence needing not to think or plan. The world creates itself invincibly, for its body is the body of the Lord. Now this again, Sri Aurobindo was asked about perfection, imperfection. He says, if you go by outwardly, if you look at people and say, because outer being is imperfect, therefore the person is imperfect, then God himself would be imperfect, because his outer body, which is the universe, is imperfect. It is the outer body. So this is the outer body. And in its heart stands Virat, King of kings. And now comes the Hiranyagarbha.
Yeah.
In him shadows his form the golden child, who in the sun-capped vast cradles his birth. Hiranyagarbha, author of thoughts and dreams, who sees the invisible and hears the sounds that never visited a mortal ear. So ultimately, through this Virat, this physical universe, where has it emerged from? It has another origin, and that origin is the golden womb of all things. That's how it is described. Yeah, I thought you are, taking out this for the light. Thank you. But with Savitri it works because my mind can substitute wherever. I mean, it remembers. But so beautiful. So Hiranyagarbha, it is the golden womb of all things. The prayer in the Isha Upanishad, Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham tattvam pushanna pavranu satya dharmaya drishtaye. The face of truth is covered with a golden lid. That remove, O fosterer, for the law, for the truth, for the law of truth. So he wants to know. So Hiranyagarbha. So he is the author of thoughts and dreams who see, so everything, who sees the invisible and hears the sounds that never visited a mortal ear. These are not sounds which are ever can be created by any, as they say, striking of two forces. It is a sound which exists in itself. Discoverer of unthought realities, truer to truth than all we have ever known. He is the leader on the inner roads. So this is the supramental Son who leads the journey of creation, because creation has emerged from him. A seer, he has entered the forbidden realms. How? By his sight. Suryo yatha sarvalokasya chakshu nalipyate chakshushe bahya dosha. Or another phrase from Kathopanishad, Agnir yatheko bhuvnam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo bahuvo. So he has entered into all these realms by lending his sight. That is why the Gita says everything, no, when we say everything is done, is it done by the divine? In the final analysis, yes. But again, a subtle truth which can be misunderstood. It is the same power. Even you lift your hand, it's with the same power. You kill somebody, it's the same power. But you can't, say that divine is doing it. It is the power which at one level is being used, misused, or, for evolutionary purposes. He builds, a magician with the omnipotent wand of thought. He builds the secret uncreated world. Here thought is not, human thought is only faint reflection and shadow of what thought really means in the spirit of the Upanishad and the Vedas. Thought is not the way we conceive, oh, I thought like this, a body of words. Thought in the original sense is a vehicle for consciousness to parcel the infinite into bits and parts. That is the original function of thought. So that's why we often find in the Upanishad, by the power of thought, he broke the caves. Now what is that thought? It is not just this thought. His thought went to that extent that instead of being a power of division, it became a power of oneness. And by that power of thought, he broke open the dark caves. He builds the secret, look at this line, he builds the secret uncreated worlds. So there are created worlds and there are uncreated worlds. They exist forever. What it means is that there are realms, the triple realms of mind, life and body. They are created and therefore they can dissolve. Whatever is created will have a term and death. Pralaya. But there are worlds which are uncreated. They are existent from the very beginning. They are beginningless and therefore they are endless. They don't get dissolved. The Golok and the realm of Krishna and Vaishnava cult describes many Satlok, Tapolok. They are uncreated worlds. But look at now what Mother is saying. Look at the extent of her work. So when she says this world will escape Pralaya because of supramental, you know what she is doing? She is turning a created world into the likeness of an uncreated world. Can you imagine what it means? And it is only possible to do that. Why these uncreated worlds are not subject to dissolution? Because the rhythms of those worlds are in perfect attunement to the movement of the infinite. Here it is not. That's why we are children. As we grow, we become more and more encrusted and again die. So Mother says that the secret of immortality in the physical. She speaks of deathless state and of immortality. So the secret of immortality in the physical is when the body can follow the rhythms of the universal self. So, how everything, uncreated worlds, look at each line, armed with the golden speech. Now, that is, also there is a speech, like just as there is our human speech, there is a divine speech, Paravak. And, when we hear Tathastu, so be it. So what that speech does, entire cosmos obeys it and readjusts itself because it's the original power of speech. And that speech is the creatrix power of all things. That's how Upanishads say, by speech the worlds were created. In the Bible it is said, God said, let there be light and there was light. This is the deeper sense of it. That is the golden speech. Armed with the golden speech, the diamond eye, his is the vision and the prophecy. So at once he knows all past, present and future time. Imagist, casting the formless into shape, traveler and viewer of the unseen paths, he is the carrier of the hidden fire. So this fire that is born in the human hearts and in everything, where is its origin? There is a fire at the apex of the worlds. From there it has come out, emerged and entered into the heart of things to evolve them. He is the voice of the ineffable. What an expression. He is the voice of the ineffable. He is the invisible, hunter of the light. So, look at its practical application. We seek the divine. That is our view. We seek the master, our view. From that, wherever little light is shining, he seeks it. Hunter of he is the invisible hunter. Latches onto this, and the soul is helplessly turned towards the divine because he has chosen. Look at and how much hope it gives. He is the hunter. Why should he hunt for light? In this world of darkness, he knows where this fire is burning and latches on, pulls, and then we say, I feel an aspiration.
The invisible hunter.
Invisible hunter of the light. That's why. The angel of mysterious ecstasies. There are 7 ecstasies that we know of. Mystics can experience in the human body. But there are other ecstasies which are beyond our experience. The conqueror of the kingdoms of the soul. Now you see, who says that super mind cannot be understood? Look, he has created it for us so beautifully, so close to us. And then of course beyond the supramental or one with it, but right behind it is the Sachidananda, that superconscient light. A third spirit stood behind, their hidden cause, a mass of superconscience closed in light, creator of things in his all-knowing sleep. Pragya, that Sachidananda Brahma. All from his stillness came as grows a tree. He is our seed and core, our head and base. So Mother said Sachidananda is everywhere. So you can jump from any level to that. He is there in everything and everywhere. All light is but a flash from his closed eyes. And all wise truth is mystic in his heart. The omniscient ray is shut behind his lids. So, what would happen if he opens his eyes? This is the third eye of Shiva. That's how it is imaged. That there is a wisdom, there is a power which is held back by the divine consciousness. This is what it means. Why? Because it is too powerful and destructive. It can demolish a whole universe. So he holds it back. So it is the light which is held behind his closed eyes. Look at the expression. Mother speaks of this experience in a different way, that how the same truth which is above is lying in the cave, the first avatar she speaks of. And how when she goes there, this being who is lying, closing his eyes and creating the universe, when Mother goes there, suddenly he opens his eyes. So you can imagine, why won't tsunamis, earthquakes arrive in the outer and inner life of humanity? When Sri Aurobindo was asked that this increasing number of catastrophe, is it because of bad karma and all? He said no. It has been happening in nature. But it is the same phenomena. In human life we see upheavals, you see in nature, because suddenly we hear in our stories that Shiva opened the eye and Kama got destroyed. So he became bodiless. Actually he evolved to his true level. He became impersonal, inhabiting all things. So imagine when that superconscient opens his eyes. He is the wisdom that comes not by thought. Na yamatma pravachane na medha na bahuna shrutin. He is the wisdom that comes not by thought. His wordless silence brings the immortal word. He sleeps in the atom and the burning star. He sleeps in man and God and beast and stone. Because he is there, the inconscient does its work. Because he is there, the world forgets to die. I mean, we just live with this sense that we are not going to die because he's there. He is the center of the circle of God. He the circumference of nature's run. His slumber is an almightiness in things. Awake, he is the eternal and supreme. Is there something beyond it? Well, Sri Aurobindo says Sachidanand is shadowed forth out of Parbrahman for the sake of the play. But of Parbrahman, you cannot say anything. So look, above was the brooding bliss of the infinite, its omniscient and omnipotent repose, its immobile silence, absolute and alone. Now the Vishwa Darshan of all these together in that grand, you can't even say cosmic deity because the supreme. Mother speaks of the vision of the supreme. But this is now the supreme. He has taken us right there. All powers were woven in countless concords here. The bliss that made the world in his body lived. Love and delight were the head of the sweet form. In the alluring meshes of their snare, recaptured, the proud, blissful members held. All joys, outrunners of the panting heart. Rushing to greet him, rushing to meet him, rushing to find him, rushing to hold him, and losing him. So look how he captures it. All joys, outrunners of the panting heart, and fugitive from life's outstripped desire. Whatever vision has escaped the eye, whatever happiness comes in dream and trance, the nectar spilled by love with trembling hands, the joy the cup of nature cannot hold, had crowded in the beauty of his face, were waiting in the honey of his laugh, things hidden by the silence of the hours, the ideas that find no voice on living lips. Now when Sri Aurobindo speaks about these ideas that find no voice, look what he describes. The soul's pregnant meeting with infinity. That is the rapturous experience. And Sri Aurobindo in Thoughts and Aphorism, how beautifully he has put it. To commit. This world was perfectly created. To commit adultery with God, how beautiful. And that experience is something tremendous. The soul's pregnant meeting with infinity. So when it meets the infinite, what happens? New possibilities are born. So that's why it is pregnant. The moment it meets, it doesn't annul. There are new possibilities. Had come to birth in him and taken fire, the secret whisper of the flower and star revealed its meaning in his fathomless look. As you were saying, Mother, looking at flowers, giving their names. His lips curved eloquent like a rose of dawn. His smile, now look at this line, his smile that played with the wonder of the mind and stayed in the heart when it had left his mouth. Who can describe this? Glimmered with the radiance of the morning star, gemming the wide discovery of heaven. His gaze was the regard of eternity. The spirit of its sweet and calm intent was a wise home of gladness and divulged the light of the ages in the mirth of the hours. He was playing like a child, mirthful, joyful. And in that play, what did he reveal? The light of the ages. What marvelous, vision of baby Krishna playing, and in that play, a son of wisdom in a miracle grove, In the orchestral largeness of his mind, all contrary seekings their close kinship knew. Mother writes this in Notes on the Way, in the agenda. She keeps telling him that all these opposites unite in the divine. Then she says, separateness and unity. Then she says, evil and good. And then naturally she realizes that disciple will get confused that, divine mein sab kuch hai, so you can do anything. Then she says, adds as if later on, my child, in that consciousness, evil and good unite. But they both change their form. They become different. Good is no more this good as we understand here. And evil also gets transformed in that orchestral largeness of his mind. Rich-hearted, wonderful to each other met in the mutual marveling of their myriad nodes and dwelt like brothers of one family. All the different seekings, different paths, they have all met in the orchestral largeness of his mind. Who had found their common and mysterious home, as from the harp of some ecstatic god, there springs a harmony of lyric bliss, striving to leave no heavenly joy unsung. Such was the life in that embodied light. Now we can picturize Sri Aurobindo in the embodied form. He seemed the wideness of a boundless sky. He seemed the passion of a sorrowless earth. He seemed the burning of a world-wide sun. Two looked upon each other. Soul saw soul.
Even before that, there was his gaze. That
Was the regard of eternity. Sri
very
Aurobindo.
picture.
His
Exactly.
gaze was the regard of eternity.
Yes.
The soul's pregnant meeting with infinity.
Yes.